Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, we're going to talk about cloud, but we're going to talk about the practical applications of cloud, because there's too much technology talk going on, really. We need to get into a discussion about how these things can make a difference for customers, make a difference for the banks that are using those things. And we're going to focus today very much on really one layer of the cloud story, which is how banks are using digital technology to transform customer user experience, to deliver better products, better service, more insight to their customers. I start with this slide because it tries to locate in the priorities of most of the banks that we're working with in Europe, where they start and where they're intending to finish in terms of their digital transformation journey. And when you're in the cloud, or whether you're looking to digitally transform, the first step is always ensuring that you have a compliant, resilient, and secure platform in which to transform your technology. Because without those things, there is loss of trust in the technology you're using and second guessing about what it may or may not do. So we spend a lot of time with our customers making sure those foundations are in place, but then typically, and what is broadly right is always specifically wrong, customers prioritize how they engage with their customers first. And that's really what I'm going to talk about. There are other areas. Clearly, data becomes really, really important when you're developing product and service to customers. You need to be able to understand them so that you can evolve and you can innovate in their interests. And at some point, you need to modernize your core systems as well. Because if you want to offer, I don't know, let's say real-time balance statements via your mobile app, if your core banking system works on a batch basis and only makes those available every hour or so, you're really going to be constrained by what you deliver to customers in time. So bear in mind that those things are equally important. We're just going to talk about customer user engagement at the moment. Now, in the digital age, we know that banks are under pressure. They're under pressure to deliver better service to their customers, more innovation. And we know this for two reasons. One, because fintechs are doing it, and they are growing their market share as a consequence. But also because customers are receiving better digital experiences in other channels as well, in other industries as well, whether it be travel, entertainment, retail. Expectations when somebody picks up a mobile app, their mobile phone and engages with their bank are different to what they have been in the past, and they will continue to be going forward. Customers are also beginning to get smarter and more demanding in terms of, well, if I deal with my bank via my phone, when I call them up to a call center or when I walk into a branch, why can't they give me the same kind of experience? Why does that not integrate in any way? So this is really what banks are trying to achieve by digitally transforming their organizations to deliver that sort of all-round service performance. That's not to say banks are sitting on their hands and not doing anything. They absolutely are. We see a lot of organizations investing heavily in improving customer service, in being able to deliver innovation reliably to their customers so that they get more of what they want at the end of the day. And we also see them experimenting and using new technologies, and no presentation from a cloud service provider could get away without talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and more frequently, or more recently, I should say, generative AI. And some of the surveys and research that we've done suggest that a vast majority of banks are looking at these new technologies as ways to make a step change in how they deliver service to customers over the longer term. That's not to say that more traditional sources of machine learning and artificial intelligence are being thrown away, because it's not new technology. Banks, financial services companies have been using it for 5, 6, 7 years now and delivering good value from that. There are plenty of banks out there using, for example, machine learning to help underwrite loans because it's able to deliver greater insight from large amounts of data sources. What we're seeing, though, is that the emergence of generative AI and the tools that go with that are allowing organizations to augment what they already do and deliver better service as a consequence. We don't have time to go through all three of these. They're just examples. But if we take the customer experience one, chatbots have been around for some time. You can phone up your bank and engage at some level with a chatbot, just in the same way as you can go online and type in questions. But we're all aware of the limitations that those kind of services deliver. If you just want to know what your balance is, a chatbot can probably answer that question. If you want to find out where your mortgage application is in the process, that's not something that typical traditional technology has been able to do. GenAI is changing that in this example because it's able to understand in much more granularity natural language and the ability to allow almost human-like responses to customers' inquiries. Now, there's no bank out there pretending that their GenAI bot is a human, and customers recognize that that's not the fact, but they are already delivering, as I say, much better service to customers as a consequence, and that's really what you can see in that middle column there. But there's also an implication and an impact on processes that banks have that sit behind some of these customer service journeys and experiences. So if you're sitting in a call center, for example, and a call comes through to you, let's say it's been smartly directed to you because the system has worked out who the caller is. If you are a customer service agent, at the touch of a button, are able to use a generative AI tool to summarize the last 5 conversations that customer has had with you as a bank, and to summarize them succinctly, when the customer comes through, you can greet them and already be aware of the likely reasons for them calling. If I'm that same customer that's got a problem with their mortgage application, as a call center agent, you can see immediately what the potential challenges and opportunities to help them and serve them. Whereas before, it often required the service agent to put somebody on hold and then go away and find out what was going on or pass them to somebody else. So these are some of those sort of practical, process-driven efficiencies that are leading to better customer outcomes as well. I'll use a real-life example of this. NatWest Bank, for those who are unaware, is a UK retail bank. It's probably the 2nd or 3rd largest in the country. They're a customer reference of ours, and if you go to the QR code, there is a lot more detail about what they're doing. We're really proud of what they've achieved and how they're going about doing it. We've been working with them for some time now to help them with their data so that it's good enough and well controlled and managed to allow them to train models to deliver the kinds of outputs that we've got here. And let's just jump quickly to the results. Relatively straightforward business use case, but which is hyper-personalized marketing to potential savings product purchasers or users. They've seen as a result of being able to analyze large data sets and then use a variety of different large language models, and that's important here because not all large language models are as good as each other at doing specific tasks. They're able to create a chain that allows them to hyper-personalize messages to potential customers in a way that is brand coherent, that is compliant, that uses the existing technology they've got in terms of automating communications to them at the times that they know those customers are receptive to them. And they're seeing significant improvements in the ability to sell these products to these customers over time. Really practical example of how good data and analytical tools in the cloud can enable customers to achieve a great deal more. But of course, none of this is really new. I started work in 1994 as a management consultant. Very first job I had was working for a British financial institution, trying to come up with a 360 view of their customer base. Because they had customers with lots of different products spread across different parts of their organization. They couldn't see which individual customer had what relationship with them. And I think we came up with a spreadsheet or at least a Microsoft Access-based solution to this problem. It wasn't a solution. My point here is that a lot of these customer service challenges have been around the industry for a long, long time. It's always been difficult as a customer to go into a branch and say, I spoke to somebody in your call center this morning, and they said I needed to give you this piece of information. Most of the time, the branch agent looks at the customer with a confused look. And even if they're smart enough to realize that this is a real customer engagement, they then don't really know what to do with the document. It causes more work for them in that result. So how do these organizations create these multi-channel experiences for customers which are data-rich, which deliver real insight into what customers want at the times that they want them? And one of the reasons why banks haven't been able to do that is legacy technology is really hard to change, right? It's costly and it's also risky. If you want to do something over here in your legacy stack, you've got to be pretty certain that the impact down here is well understood and managed as a result. And that's difficult to do. So when banks are moving to the cloud, they're doing so in ways that, one, capture better usage, better utility technology which is designed to help organizations understand their data better, pull them together in one place, even though they might be in disparate places within their own organizations, and apply the analytical tools to generate the insight that comes out of them. And then connect those with a digital call center, with a mobile application, with systems in the branch, which allow and enable these kinds of good customer experience outcomes, which are just not possible with existing technology to this day. So we are able in the cloud to begin to think about customer relationships as journeys in a much more practical and, dare I say it, easy way than when you try to wrangle traditional technology to achieve the same kind of outputs and results. And if we're really honest with ourselves, the industry's been very, very bad at that over the last 20 or so years. How can you find customers with a hyper-personalized content? And remember, if you're going to try and deliver the fabled marketing segment of one, you've got to be pretty sure that you can do that in an automated way. Otherwise, you're going to have marketing people in your marketing department generating each and checking each of those messages that go out to all of your customers. It's not a scalable solution unless the technology can do the hard work for you. How do you onboard customers quickly and easily? By analyzing the documents that they provide them, and then very quickly checking them against databases for fraud, for sanctions, and money laundering and the like. When you've got customers on the hook, how do you capture all of the data that is associated with their interactions with you, regardless of where they're interacting, whether it's been on the phone, on the mobile phone, in a branch, etc., and then use all of that information to really understand them better, so that you can deliver better, more automated services to them at a lower cost, and also then deliver better service, which in turn, we believe, means customers become more loyal and they do more business with you over time. These are the kind of technology chains that we're building to deliver and replicate the customer's user experience, the journey that they go through from left to right in their relationship with banks. And at the same time, capture the voice of the customer. So somebody calls up in a call center and complains about something, I don't know, the ATM on the high street has run out of cash. How do we recognize that in that context? How do we do something with that information? Because it's not just going to impact that individual customer at the end of the day. Or maybe they're using language which expresses dissatisfaction in some way with how long it's taken them to process their mortgage application. How can we analyze that across an organization? Well, you can when you digitize the conversations and then apply sentiment analysis to that. So you can begin to start to identify operational issues in the same way. Now, we're only able to talk about the customers that have been kind enough to give us their permission to use their names. Here's a short list of some of those customers. I'm going to talk in a little bit about some of them, more specific examples to them. But we're doing this kind of technology change with customers throughout Europe, throughout the world, and beginning to deliver some really real-life, tangible benefits to these organizations. Because you don't just do it because it's the right thing to do. You do it because it's the right thing to do, and you can deliver greater value for money, better return on investment for the relationships and the customers that you have. So let's try and bring to life some of the practical business use cases we're trying to solve for in some of these customers. KBC, a brand I'm sure you'll be familiar with, a Belgian bank with banks throughout Central and Southern Europe. We've been working with them for a number of years. In the last couple of years, we developed something with them called Kate, which is a digital assistant, which allows their customers to pick up the phone and engage with a chatbot, but ask it a whole range of different questions. Questions such as train times, for example, things that are related to their lifestyle alongside their financial needs too. And that's created for KBC a really rich data set about their customers, which they're using to understand them better and personalize and deliver better product and service for them. Now, they're about to launch Kate 2, and this is not a particular secret, so I'm not telling tales out of school, which uses generative AI to take that much, much further in terms of the customer experience that they're getting, but also the analysis and the data that they're getting out of it as a consequence. These technology tools, which we're only just getting familiar with, are already being used to deliver value to customers at the end of the day. PennyMac is a US mortgage institution. They basically take all of the mortgages that are originated through the US banking system. Using machine learning and generative AI, we're able to reduce the amount of time it takes them to extract the relevant data from these paper or the digital versions of the paper mortgage loan documentation which they have, and use that to analyze the portfolios and to keep complete records of the customers that they have lent money to. The speed at which they're able to do that has reduced document processing time for batches of new loans coming onto their platform from several hours to several minutes. The accuracy of the extraction of data from a wide range of different unstructured data sources is much, much better than it ever was before because of the developments in these technologies, and the reduced costs as a consequence of this automation is allowing them to do more and different things in their organization as a result. Again, at scale here, 180 million pages of mortgage documentation is not insignificant. One of the important things about cloud technology is its ability really to scale from the very small, which is why fintechs use the cloud, because when you're using it in very small terms, it doesn't cost you very much, to seamlessly scale to big workloads. And that becomes important not just from a flexibility perspective, but also from an innovation point of view. And we see lots of customers experimenting with very small use cases, using very, very small volumes with a test base of customers, trying to get their product and service innovations correct, knowing and having the confidence that when they do, they can open the doors and push that innovation out to all of their customers in their millions with the confidence that the technology is going to support them. It's going to be robust and resilient. And in some cases, when that technology doesn't work, or when the innovation doesn't work, when they've invented something that actually customers didn't really want, the opposite is also true. They're able to shut down that technology very, very quickly, walk away from it, and not have any residual costs in their organization as a consequence. That's the sort of flip side, really, of reducing the cost of experimentation and innovation in an organization, is that you're not left with layers and layers of costs or kit that's not being used for its intended purpose. The cloud obviates the need to do that. Right, this is one of my favorite ones. Washington Fed Bank is in the northwest corner of the US. It being the US, it's still quite a large bank, even though it's a regional one. And they have used generative AI technologies in their call centers, as I mentioned in the example before, to be able to understand why customers are calling them, and then what they can do about that. So the way they do that is they're able to identify callers coming into the call center, match that against the previous conversations and engagements that they've had with the bank across a variety of different channels, and then either give the customer the option to speak to a chatbot to get something transactionally completed, or speak to a customer service operative in order to deal in more detail about it. And that customer service operative has all the data that they need in front of them to do something with them there and now. You can see here they've been able to reduce some of the response times that customers receive service from the bank by 90% as a consequence of these things. We've got a bank in the UK, we don't have permission to use their name, but they're using very, very similar technology to answer the problem I mentioned previously. When an ATM machine runs out of cash, they're using their call center as a more effective way of identifying the empty ATM machine than their systems do, because their systems are batch-based. So they find out eventually at the end of the day that the ATM is empty. Customers, wonderful though they are, don't hesitate to pick up the phone and tell the bank that they've got a problem with them. So they're using that information to redirect cash trucks so that they can fill up ATMs that are empty on a much more real-time basis. It's that kind of operational insight that leads to greater efficiencies throughout the organization. Verafin are a NASDAQ-owned ISV. They use our technology to help investigations around compliance and fraud issues to become more automated. So rather than having teams of people collecting all the information themselves and then laboriously completing forms and files, their solution does that on an automated basis, so that an investigator gets a part-completed file related to a financial crime or a fraud or a compliance issue, and is able to deal with it more quickly, either by passing it to specialists because they now understand more about the issue, or by dealing with it there and then with themselves. Much greater efficiency in their organization as a consequence. And then finally, because I have 19 seconds left, thank you very much, a global investment bank who within the four walls of this auditorium is JP Morgan, are using generative AI in their private bank to begin to identify potential customers based upon publicly available data, so that their bankers are not spending their time collecting data, processing data, but spending time sorting through the summarizations and the recommendations on those customers, so that they then plot the best approach to meeting their needs and helping them to become customers of the bank over time. So a diverse range of different use cases, all really focused upon how technology in the cloud, along with good data, and there's another discussion there, can be used to deliver better customer services over time. I'm done.
Good.
We could talk about our partners, but we don't have to.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Richard. Yes.